Hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks for the 3.5 of you who are still here. I really appreciate it. My name's Sebastian Good. I'm the co-founder of Expero. We're a software consultancy that helps companies build products for expert users. Some of our customers are here tonight. This is a glimpse of the sort of software we build for people: OMSs, PMSs, data fabrics, trading systems, all kinds of stuff. We're proud to have been an OpenFin development partner since 2016. Over here is Tim Baker, whose career has been spent in places like IEX, Refinitiv, UBS, and he's now the financial services practice lead here at Expero. Using the patterns we've seen over and over again in our consultancy, we're now building and licensing software as accelerators for the many common patterns we've seen over the years. We call this software Expero Connected. It's a platform which provides human consumable insights into highly connected data domains. We've deployed this software as connected financial crimes in major banks to unify data across multiple internal and external sources and apply advanced analytics, basically to go find bad guys. We've deployed this as connected C360, Customer 360, to show a single picture of customers and customer segments across many sources of data inside companies. And today we're here to talk about taking those same tools and applying them to the finance desktop. What a great conference to do that at, eh? It's called Connected Finance Workbench, and we're releasing it for general use in January. So, Tim.
Thanks, Sebastian. So we're solving for three main problems and issues and constituencies here. The first is the end user. We've heard a lot about that tonight. End users are overwhelmed, 40 applications they have to work with every day. But we're also thinking about those institutions who are trying to modernize their information assets, and also bring their users along with that in that journey. And we're also thinking about those data providers who are trying to get their data into the workflows, those independent data providers into the workflows at the banks. So when I think about the modern desktop today, I actually think about the Model T4. The modern desktop is kind of stuck. It's you can have any color as long as it's black. There's really very little choice. It's kind of captive and closed and inflexible. When I think about the modern desktop of the future, I think about how we build a car today. When I buy a car, I've got so many choices, and I think the average Mini, there's 2 million different variations to choose from. That's the kind of flexibility and the mass customization that I think is needed in our industry. So what are the key components that go to make up that mass customized offering? Well, you want somewhere to manage and think about all of the interests that you surround yourself around. So you need a watch list, you need a list of stocks or a list of sectors or industries, whatever you follow. You then need to combine that list of interests with a bunch of content. You need data. You need to be able to choose a bunch of fields and flexibly put those into a grid, and we've seen some grids tonight. You also need to be able to discover new content. A lot of those applications are kind of locked, and you get whatever content is delivered with the application. But you really need to be able to find and subscribe and select the content that you need. And then when things happen, markets go up and down, you need to be able to be alerted. What happened? Where did it happen? And then you need to be able to dive deeper into what's behind that event. You need to chart it, you need to analyze it, you need to do some calculations. And maybe you need to build a more complex set of analytics, which you really can't do within a fixed application. You need to get that Python developer to build yourself an app.
So as Tim mentioned, to enable this experience, you need an architecture underneath it. The modern environment is awash in data providers, right? It's no longer realistic to rely on one aggregator to pull it all together for you. So we've built a semantic layer, connected data, that we can quickly teach how to connect to all your different data sources. Data provider 1 uses tickers, number 2 uses ISINs, you have your own security master inside your firm. Show us how they connect, and we'll join all the data up for you. Once that data has been connected, and this has been a big theme tonight, right? Driving actionable intelligence to a person, right? I have a set of tools I need to light up with that combined data. The ones Tim mentioned, alerts, watch lists, we'll show a little bit of them. And finally, we need to deliver industry-specific tooling to users to tell the stories and do the investigations they want to do, blotters and charts and all those kind of good things. So we bring all these things together across these different domains, and tonight we're talking about the finance desktop. Now, we were going to show you a cool live demo, but we weren't brave enough to brave this Wi-Fi, so the prices you see will not include the recent rate hike by the Fed. This was recorded about an hour ago while I sobbed in my bench over there. We're going to do a little bit of a demo. Tim, do you want to take the ventriloquist role here and cue some questions?
So why don't you just start by explaining what your workbench looks like? What are some of the key features?
So I've configured my workbench just with some of the basic things we've talked about. I've got a watch list on the left. I'm looking at a blotter with some statistics about the stocks that I'm following. I've got a little company summary. And thanks to OpenFin, I've got maybe a third-party widget here like this stock quote that they demo the app with. Well, I want to be able to use all those tools in conjunction with different watch lists. So maybe I'm going to switch my watch list from this dividend stock over to an autos. That global context, which is up top, is shared across all these things. And so as I use it, it's projected. It's FTC3 compliant. So if I've got other applications listening, my OMS or EMS or a customer management system, that's being shot across. This is an equity. It's actually a set of equities. It's instrument list context. So if I have an application that can understand a whole portfolio, it's listening. Maybe some of these applications can just focus on one stock, one customer, one whatever at a time. So I can actually choose to focus on a particular one here. I've shown GM and these other applications light up with that context. So what you've come to expect with an FTC3 desktop where all these applications are working in conjunction, a lot less mess for me to worry about. I can now switch back to my dividend stocks, light up Goldman Sachs, for instance. I can go add something to my watch list. So let's add, Agilent Technologies here. It starts with an A, that's convenient. And immediately, once I've added it, it shows up in my watch list. But I don't have to muck around with getting into all my other tools. It automatically shows up in my blotter. And if I want it to work in these other tools, I can immediately go select it. So basic just tour of how you might manage a bunch of information.
And you mentioned FTC3 then. So when that watch list you created, is that available to other applications that are running in your
website?
So
we just broadcast it around. If I want to share some of this context with some other applications, for instance, I might pull up Home and search for a news widget. There's that stock quote that I was showing. One of the vendors that's in the consortium we're building here of specialist data providers is FinTech News, and I can bring up their widget. They have an OpenFin native widget, bring it, rearrange it the way I want it, and now it will immediately be showing all the same information that's in context, so I can bring it all together even though it's from multiple data sources.
So let's have a quick deeper dive on the blotter. What can you do with the blotter?
So let's say I've set up the blotter the way I've got it here. I'd like to do some more. Now, a typical challenge is if I have all these data sources, how do I know what kind of data I can bring to bear? So we've added the ability to, obviously go add data to the blotter, but it brings up a data exploration experience where I can go scroll through the different data providers that we've been configured with. For this simple demonstration, we've hooked up a couple data providers. IEX is an aggregator of equities data. We can scroll through and save those different data sources. And in this example, we're going to be showing some dividend forecasts, like a Delta One desk might use. And we've signed up a second specialist data provider who has, what I am told, are the very best dividend forecasts on the planet. Woodseer, founded by Ed Dean here, who's in the corner. Say hi to Ed when you have a chance. So maybe I want to go add some of that dividend information. I can also just go, so I've added these dividends, I can also just go search for it. And let me type in sector. Let me first organize this by sector. Let me group it here. Okay, it's a big, messy watch list. Let me add some structure to it. And then let me, go add some dividend data to it.
So the world's changing.
Yep.
What happens next when something happens? Tell me about alerting.
So, yeah, it's one thing. We call these sort of interfaces chore factories in my consultancy. Here you go, worker. Have fun finding the shit you're looking for, right? It's just huge. Really, what we've seen, the theme over and over again, is users want to pull information towards them or have it pushed towards them that's of actionable interest. So what we would actually want to do is go create some alerts. So we're going to go drag an alert widget into OpenFin here. We're going to open it up, and I won't bore you with all the details, but we use this often in the financial crime space, where there's a whole set of kind of pre-canned or pre-researched analytics. How closely do you cluster to a known company that's on the sanctions list? Well, in the finance space, we have a ton of these things too, right? We want to invent formulas. We've got calculations people have done, NPV, performance attributions. In this case, and if we were live, I could do this nicely for you interactively, but we're just going to put together a little decision tree which says, you know what, let me pull in data using the same interface as you saw before, let me explore, to calculate a dividends yield. So the platform knows what a time series is. We're going to pull in all of Ed's forecasted dividends for, say, the next 12 months. We're going to divide that by the latest price for my EX, so combining data from different sources. And then let's trigger on an output where, let's say, that yield goes above 5%. People use this all the time to create all kinds of actionable alerts. I don't know, my champion left the company. Configure that alert, bring it up, have it show to me across CRM data as well as equities data. Now, through special arrangement with the Treasury Department, we were going to tank Ford's stock today so that alert would trigger, but it was pulled at the last minute, so we faked the alert. Let's pull up the notification center. Boom. If that price were to change and the dividend would go, I would get a nice alert. When I say show me, it would highlight why it was. That tells me why it happened. It was Ford. It was 5%. It was scoped to my watch list. Now I have an actionable event I can go do some work and potentially trade on.
So the Woodsear data is pretty specialized, right? So it's got dividend time series, it's got event data. How do we display that in the workbench?
So it's just data. I could throw it in the blotter and have all the past and future dividends from my whole watch list in here and aggregate it and sum it and do good stuff with it. Go for it. That's good. But it's also the case, and we see this as this platform matures, that in different asset classes or for different use cases, you want to add specialized views. For instance, in financial crimes, we often look at connections between people, or we look at geography, so maps and connection explorers. In this space, calendarized view is nice. So we've added a dividend view that automatically snaps in and understands the context I'm in, which is this workspace. Let's make it bigger so you can actually see it. And I can now scroll through and see declaration, X date, and payment dates, plus a confidence that Ed has given, personally guaranteed, for each of these different dividends. So I can now see it in the calendar view. You could imagine configuring this to point to lots of other different data sources, cash flows, future payments, news events, whatever.
So I mentioned Woodsear doesn't calculate a dividend yield.
Yeah.
So how could you go about doing that?
So we calculated a dividend yield in a really simplistic way in that alert, but that's often a task given the subjectivity that is given to, say, a quant at the end of the desk. And probably what they've come up with is a Python notebook. So with the help of a partner firm called CurveNote, we've taken the ability to take that Python notebook that Jimmy made down at the end of the desk, run it through a compliance workflow, a publishing workflow, and make it available as an authoritative, approved way to calculate it, and then publish it into this environment so that the output of that notebook, in this case a nice historical yield calculation, is shown as a widget, and which is interactive and which will automatically update as we change context. So I can actually see the notebook, I can pull that up. Maybe it also produces a PDF, I can go pull that up. And indeed, as I change focus stocks, that will re-execute on demand. So now I have the tool that quant made me without a long custom development process, published, visible, enable within the toolkit I've got.
Now I'd like coding, right? So if I want to build my own widget, how do I do that on the platform?
So most of what you've seen here is done declaratively. We won't spend a long time here, but a lot of the screens you've seen are put together by just declaring what kind of data is available through the connected data semantic layer and appearing on here. And as I toggle through this, you see things, for instance, being added to the company summary. We could imagine someone saying, I want to build a security summary, a fixed income security, a customer summary, by bringing all that different data together.
So hopefully you've got a really good sense for how mass customization works, right? We've just built essentially a little mini equities workbench. It's used equity data, but imagine a world, next slide, where we can build anything. We could be an interdealer broker, we could build a crypto terminal with this. These are all use cases that we've heard from our clients in the last literally
6 weeks or so,
last few weeks. So I'll leave this with you. What would you like to build with the workbench? What ideas have you got? Come and see us and we'll build it with you.
Thanks, everyone.